right, welcome to episode 3 of Open Conversations. In this episode, we're gonna have a conversation about, of all things, religion. This is something that a lot of people have varied opinions about, whether that be good, whether that be bad. But it's definitely something that bears conversation, something that I think about often. So, this conversation we'll talk about religion. What's it's a sticky subject. One of those subjects that you say that we're told to stay away from.
Right, right.
You know, why is that? First off, why is that? When they say don't talk, when you meet somebody or talk to somebody, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion. Why not?
Well, first off, I want to say welcome, guests. Dominica Johnson. Just great to be back with you guys. Um, I feel like that topic is sticky and heated because there's so much emotion involved around religion.
Mhm.
There's so much conditioning, um, so many beliefs that not everyone holds true about religion. So I think it's just a bundle of emotional, I don't know, just a lot of emotions involved with religion. Some people have good experience, some people have bad. So this is your topic, Sherm. So what I'm going to ask is that you take it away. I have some viewpoints, but I know that you are the pastor,
Nah, nah.
as people call you.
No, it's like what you just said about two things that are kind of stick out. One is the emotion behind it, right? And the other is the difference in opinion.
Hmm.
But I tend to look at it from from a higher view, from 10,000 feet above that viewpoint. And I don't. If I feel like if you're down on the ground in that battle between whether or not religion is true, whether or not, and when I say religion, that's a broad category.
What would you define religion as?
A belief system. Basically, what it
That's
comes
how I
down to,
look at it.
it's your belief system, but I would say that typically would incorporate a belief in a higher power, or powers.
And
And
that belief system, I feel like, comes with a lot of rules.
well, let's
Most religions.
look at the root of the word. Or you look it up religion in the dictionary, and you'll find stuff like to bind, like Latin, I believe it is to bind. That's the root word. That's where it comes from, or to obligate. And I think one of the things that throws me off is that like I grew up a Christian household, a Baptist household, and we can go into that topic right there. This is one of the reasons that I feel the way that I do feel about religion as a whole. Um,
And we'll get into that next. Exactly how do you feel about religion?
Absolutely, we'll go there, and I want your comments too. But
Yes.
you know, it's deep, and it's a cause of division. But going back to what I said about the obligation portion of it, it just always seemed weird to me how just one small aspect of religion to give and not expect anything in return, right? So we're taught to be like God, like in the Christian faith. We're taught to be like God or like Christ,
Hmm.
and to give and not expect anything in return.
Right.
Yet it's almost related to me as a child that if I'm told to give somebody something without an obligation, but they turn right around and say, well, God gave you life and you're obligated to praise him. And if you don't, this is what's going to happen to you. This negative outcome. For me, it was confusion. You
Hmm.
know, it was a lot of confusion. But now that I'm older I've come into more information and more knowledge, more experience, I understand that even inside of a defined religion, no matter what that is, there's different takes on it,
Hmm.
different interpretations of things.
Hmm.
You know, so like I mentioned before about the uh, subsets, like Baptists, part of Christianity, Pentecostals. There's so many
So many different
different.
facets.
I can't keep up.
Hmm.
I couldn't keep up. I mean, I used to when I was little. It was like, okay, God was God, and you might get fancy and somebody say Jehovah, right? And then I was gone for a while, doing my own thing. Hadn't been to church in quite some time, and then went to church, and they were rattling off names. I was like, Jehovah this and Jehovah that, and I was like, oh wow, I never knew any of this even existed. you know, this is crazy. So which one? What's going on
Which
here?
is it?
Yeah, yeah. This is new. This is all new. This is all new stuff. So, but but anyway, what was your experience with religion growing up?
My religion, I mean, my experience with church, I grew up in a Baptist church from probably ages 2 to maybe about 12, 13. My experience was, it was a lot of, it was too disciplined for me,
Hmm.
too constricting for me, even as a child. Um, not only was it your parent forcing you to have to go to Sunday school, I personally, when I went to Sunday school, yes, I enjoyed, but I always felt like I was forced to do it, even when I did enjoy it.
Right.
And that didn't sit well with me. Maybe that stifled some of my, enjoyment, but being forced to go to church, and I just didn't enjoy the Baptist setup.
So what would you say? Somebody said, well, what about school? You've been forced to go to school. Does that make it bad?
I can't say that I enjoyed school either,
Right.
because it
Right.
was forced.
Right.
It
But
wasn't something that I just gravitated to. I
what
went
did
because I had to.
what did they tell
And that
you?
was the same thing with church.
What did they tell you? What it was good for you?
Even
School
if
was
it's
good
good,
for
it didn't feel good.
you. Right.
It
Right.
didn't feel, I wasn't learning the things that I wanted to learn, or the things that I was interested in. I was learning the things that we need to learn, or you're supposed to learn to be able to navigate, as a productive citizen when you're an adult.
Yeah.
Um,
The reason I asked that question though was I think it's just a big difference between like information or when you say you're forced to go to school, it's one thing, but it's not forcing you to believe anything other than the Pledge of Allegiance and all this stuff. We can get into that separately, but you're not being forced to. Religion is something. It's different.
Yeah.
It's a more of an internal thing.
mhm.
School, in my opinion, should be largely based on just facts and figures. And it's provable. A lot of what
Mhm.
is provable, math and
Mhm.
science and things of that nature. But when you feel like you're being forced to
It can,
believe something that doesn't make sense to you, or
right,
nobody can prove
right. You
the.
don't completely understand it. It's yeah, it puts up a barrier,
Hmm.
and then you have all these questions that are really not being clearly answered. I remember I had a friend. I was about 7 years old, and this girl, she just popped into my life. We used to ride our bikes together, but her family was heavily, heavily Christian. She one day started telling me about the Revelations. Mind you, up until that point, I hadn't really heard about Revelations
Now, how old are you? About
7.
7. Okay.
When I tell you she scared the crap out of me, I went home and I told my mom, I'm like, why is this going to happen? So I was so fearful of what God was going to do. He's coming back, and the rapture and all the pain and suffering that we're going to have if you don't believe this. And how do I know at 7 years old that I'm already, a good person, or that I meet the standards that
What is
are
the
set
standard?
right? Who knows?
Right, because it's
Who
always
knew it?
changing.
Yes.
I mean, some people it was like, what must I do to be saved? Well, you just believe this, and you're good. And then you go to church next Sunday, and you're not quite saved because you didn't do this, this, and this.
That's what I mean. A lot of rules.
Right.
There are a lot, to me, there are a lot of rules in religion.
Hmm.
And I've always been a little bit rebellious, but
Right.
just by nature.
Right.
If it didn't feel right, then it's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll suffer the consequences
Right.
of that.
Right.
And I've always been like that,
Well,
just strong will. But yeah, that story, the stories that girl told me, freaked me out, and that really kind of put a little nugget in me that something's not right. Because if God's supposed to be loving, why would things why would we have to suffer in that manner? Why would he come back to make us suffer and put us through all of this if you're a sinner, or if you're,
I there was a video that I watched. It was yesterday or it was the day before, and it kind of spoke on that. About the the fact that you have in this context and what we were taught, you have a God that's just brutal, and in many cases to people who have never even heard of him and don't know of him and couldn't have done otherwise because of just the way that they came into this world, their upbringing,
right, their environment.
and it's just like when you hear things that just don't click,
Right.
you have to step back and kind of look at it, the big picture. When you said about what feels natural, what feels right, there's a lot of significance to that. I saw a guy talking about, and it ended up being a video about veganism.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, no matter what you feel about veganism, whether it's right to eat meat or not eat meat, that was beside. What I'm talking about is the influence in the way that the information was presented, and it made a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
In this video, he talks about why we eat what we eat, and why we think it's okay, or versus why we don't think it's okay. Why people in other countries eat what they eat,
Mm-hmm.
And in there, he showed a picture of these cute little pigs, these baby pigs,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? And somebody he's teaching a class, like a seminar, and somebody says cute, and he's like, yeah, right, cute. So if somebody pulled out a knife and was going to go chop this little cute pig up, somebody in this room would probably say, hey, don't do that,
Yeah.
or if they gave you a knife, you go do it, would you go do it? No, probably not, because they're
Right.
just so cute, right? But you have no problem eating bacon out of this nice package. And the only reason that bacon is there is because you had some people who were willing to do what you didn't want to do, to listen to the sounds you didn't want to listen to
You're
see
far
the thing.
removed from.
You're right. So
Yeah.
you're conditioned to exhibit at that point what is an unnatural behavior,
Mhm.
because you're so far removed from it.
Right.
And if you knew the facts of it, it wouldn't kind of sit with you. And it's the same thing. It translates the same way into religion. You get fed one story,
Mm-hmm.
and it's told so many times over and over again, how it's right to go in here and kill every man, woman, child, baby, because that's our land.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what God said: go in there and murder everyone, go in there and kill everybody. Right? You can hear that so many times that you think it's okay. I mean, that it doesn't even bother you anymore. But now, in a modern sense, if you say, okay, we're going to go in here, we're just going to slaughter everybody, you'd be the first one up on TV talking about how this is not right, and how we shouldn't do this and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a twisted thing. So it goes back to natural. What feels natural?
Right.
And you had these feelings because something wasn't right. At least in your mind, something wasn't right. At least in my mind, something wasn't right.
Just didn't resonate. Did not resonate. What do you feel like religion? And I'm going to incorporate spirituality into this as well. Do you feel like religion and spirituality, or a person can be religious and be highly spiritual, or are they separate?
I think absolutely, and I think they are separate.
Mhm.
So I believe somebody can be religious and highly spiritual,
Right.
but I also believe that religion and spirituality are separate. Or a religion can actually be based off of a form of spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
and it wouldn't be for one of the five major religions. Well, you know what? I haven't studied Hinduism and Taoism or whatnot,
Or
so
Buddhism.
I mean they tend to be more spiritual, I believe, than
Right.
Christianity or Islam. But I do believe that um, somebody can be. I think religion is just the system around. It's a belief system, so it's a system that's created around whatever they believe.
And I do believe that some people, there are a lot of people that are Christian that are highly spiritual, and I think those are the people that actually get more out of that belief system.
Hmm.
I highly believe that those are the people that can actually look at maybe some of the teachings from a higher perspective,
Hmm.
more in a metaphysical perspective,
Hmm.
and not take every verse in the Bible literally.
Hmm.
They're able to see with their mind's eye and understand what Jesus and God and all the other figures in the Bible were actually teaching.
Hmm.
So I do feel like those people can get a lot more and actually can teach others that are ready for it
Right.
to understand
Right.
some of the higher teachings.
Right. And at the risk of sounding like religion is like it's all bad and
And
no
it's not,
good, and
sadly.
that's
Absolutely not. It's great for some people because it
right.
is a vehicle for them to understand. And I do think religion and going to church, if a person is, some people need to be in a community to help them raise their vibration. I think that's what going to church, actually being, with a group of people, it helps you raise your vibration. You're singing, you're praying together. And when you get a group of people, like minded people doing the same things, I honestly believe that you actually will raise up higher. And that's why people go to church and they leave feeling better.
Mm.
And they expect that high to actually keep them floating to the next Sunday when it's not supposed to be like that. You need to do the daily things, whether it's reading your Bible or whatever scriptures that help elevate you. You need to be doing that every day. It's not just every Sunday, just being with the group, because that does feel good for people.
Now, I like to interject that a lot of that is due to, as you stated, it's that crowd
Mm-hmm.
and that group.
Mm-hmm.
And another term for that is a mob. And when they say a mob mentality, that's another term for that. All these feelings and emotions that are evoked. It happens in entertainment venues. Happens at football games.
Mm-hmm.
When you go there, that's the exact same thing that's happening at the football game that happens in church. Except then this form of religion, is pertains to football. And these people that they're praising, the God is the team.
Mm-hmm.
Now these other people might be different components of that, which is why they're allowed to be ridiculed or whatever. But the team, the Bucks, I revere these Bucks. They're placed in a position of reverence. And you got all these people who are cheering for this team, and it's and like the wave goes around the
Mm-hmm.
stadium. All those people, thousands of people, participate in the same thing. So much power in there, has the ability to change their emotion and change their mentality and change the way they feel. And they just like that, they leave there feeling elevated, feeling better if things go their way,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and then now they're trying to make it through the week until the next football game. So I get it. I mean, there's a benefit there. Whatever
For
helps
some
you
people,
get through,
for some people, that really helps them,
Mm-hmm.
stay in that I call it energetic, a higher vibration. It helps them get through and feel closer to God,
Right.
which I've always considered myself a lone wolf when it comes to most things. I don't need a crowd to help uplift me. I've always said that God or your higher power is wherever you are. That's exactly how I look at it. I don't have to be in a group of people to feel that connection with God or, spirit. I can get it wherever I am. I can be at Disney World on a roller coaster ride and feel that feeling.
But why is that?
Um, I feel like because I have a conscious connection with spirit. I have a strong connection, and I know it's within me.
So, what's interesting is that I was about to comment on what you had said, and what I was about to comment, instead of comment, I just asked you that question, and you said exactly what I was about to comment. The reason you feel that way is because one, you don't need to go through someone else to get to the God, and two, it's within you, not outside of you. And another hazard, and it might sound like I'm knocking church or knocking, you know what I'm saying?
But you have bad experiences.
I did have a few, but I had some great experiences as well. But I'm not knocking it. What I'm saying is that anytime you introduce another element, You know, it's so you do need a mastermind. You do need a group of people, like-minded people. And when they're all thinking that way or working toward the same end, it's a great thing.
It's more.
But when you introduce somebody or something that's not, and that person is allowed access to your mastermind simply just by showing up, you know what I'm saying? You can cause issues.
Throw off the resonance time.
Exactly. I think it probably happens for the good more so than for the bad. It's probably greater good in it than there is bad in it.
And I think we both know people that religion is one aspect of going to church, but then there's a hierarchy as opposed to the person that leads the church becomes almost like God. And I think that's where a lot of pastors, reverends, bishops, whatever you want to call it, I think that's where religion starts to some parts of it start to crumble because people put more faith in this person as opposed to listening to their own guidance and listening to what that person is saying and interpreting his words from a higher perspective, using your own mind to go, yeah, Pastor, I agree with that. Or if he says something that just doesn't sound right, like, I don't know if I accept that as truth.
But then you got a hard heart.
Well,
and you refuse to listen to the word of God. See,
then
that you got a problem because you're not listening to what I'm telling you.
And that would be the person that is going to be kind of ousted or looked at.
Or just made feel a certain way.
Right. You will be made to feel a certain way. But the ones that just hang on to every word and this person is viewed as God, I just don't, that's what I don't like about certain churches and the religious aspect of church.
And that works the opposite way too. People can't disconnect the message from the messenger.
Right.
You see it everywhere outside of church, and you see it down the road, politics, everywhere.
True. It's everywhere.
If the message is right, then it's right. Granted, a lot of messages like you can't prove that they're right or wrong, which enter the other part of the problem.
Right.
But if you could prove that the message was right, this particular message, and there was proof to substantiate it, then you should focus on the message, not the messenger. So I could be a crackhead, and if I come and tell you, I say God loves you. Well, God loves you. I mean, that's the truth. Whether the crackhead said it or the person over here who's above reproach said it. So focus on the message, not the messenger.
Exactly.
But it becomes so difficult when the organizational structure and the religion begins to edify and exalt individuals. Well, the pastor deserved this, the pastor deserved that, the pastor did this, and we start building the pastor up. And then, something happens, and then it's a problem.
Something like what?
The pastor,
money's missing,
or the pastor was hemming up little boys,
or
you know what I'm saying? Something like that. Now, the same dude that was hemming up the little boy might have said some stuff that was absolutely right, absolutely true and correct, right? How much of what of what became a part of that religion or that doctrine or that teaching was strictly from that perspective. How much it was that individual's input,
Hmm.
and now you get the individual input of somebody who's hemming up little boy. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's
So
tricky.
it is. It's tricky. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's very tricky
Yeah.
because it's a fine line, and in no way are we bashing Christianity or any religion.
No.
We just know that I feel like a person should really trust how they feel. And when you hear a message, does it resonate with you? Do you find truth to your core in that message, regardless of who it's coming from? Whether it's from your pastor, from a deacon, from, a spiritual advisor, does it resonate with you? And you have to, I think, number one, you need to trust yourself when it comes to any belief. Trust how you feel about what you're learning, what you're bringing into your consciousness.
I see that is another door opener. There's a lot of people who tell you that your feelings aren't paramount. Those are your feelings. And your feelings change.
No, and they
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
and you're entitled to change those.
But God is unchanging. He don't change. This God is right, has always been right, will always be right, and is unchanging and immovable. So your feelings, you can't trust your feelings because your feelings will change. That's just the mood you in.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? You ever heard stuff like that before?
I have.
And so I think that's a mixing, which is true in a way. But it's a mixture. It's almost taking, like, beating you up aside the head with a weapon. It's hitting below the belt is what it is. It's taking away the value. There's a reason why you feel a certain way. There's a reason, and it's diminishing that.
Right.
Right. And
it's trying to cause you not to trust.
Well, I think
yourself.
But I think the reason for that is because I think that there's a different. I think emotions are reactions, and I think there's a definite difference between an emotion and an intuition.
Mm-hmm.
We use the word feeling as if it only pertains to emotions, but sometimes you have a feeling that's not emotion based. It's a knowing. It's a level of knowing that you have about something that's not just exactly based on your emotion. I feel this way about this. I feel this way about that. And I think what we're really trying to say sometimes is that I know this or that on some level.
But I feel like your emotions are a barometer of your intuition. I mean, the feelings and knowings that you get. I think that you get a knowing and your body responds to, whether it's mentally, emotionally, to whatever that is information you get from a higher source. So I feel like it's all connected.
I do believe there's a
often
a physical response too.
I think that's our GPS system that we're all born with.
Mm-hmm.
So and I do feel like sometimes people are brought up to not trust what they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so wrong. We should all acknowledge and trust. And if you don't act, even if you don't act on what you feel, at least take note of it.
Mm-hmm.
Acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, I'm sensing this, because it may come to you and come to light a little bit later. You may get that message, or you may hear something that proves why you felt the way you felt. So I do,
I when I was younger in church, nowadays they would say I feel some type of way. What does that mean anyway? I feel some type of way. But anyway, I would get these feelings. I would literally experience almost like a transformation. I would literally change based on certain circumstances and certain energies that I had around me, like at church. And I remember, like when you said you have a right to feel certain ways, and I might not be able to explain it. I don't know exactly why. I just know this is how I feel.
Hmm.
You know, I remember my mother. Boy, you're so mean. Why, you know why?
Oh,
No.
I heard that too many times
Oh my
growing up.
God! But it wasn't. It wasn't an aggressive
Right.
thing. It was a protective
Yeah.
thing. You know, I was shields up.
Yeah.
You know, because what I saw was I could literally see energies around that didn't necessarily intend anything good toward me.
So
This was
give
at
us, well,
church.
give us, I mean, tell me the story. We want details. We want details. What happened?
Well, here's the thing. It's happened on so many
Give
different
us
occasions. I'll give
one.
you one detail. Okay. All right. Okay. After church, people would get together in uh, not the parsonage, the annex.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Go over, have food, this,
Mm-hmm.
that, and the other. And I remember one time, um, I was over in that side. I was talking to my mother about something. I can't remember what it was, but at the time it was pretty doggone
Right.
important to me. And I remember a bunch of girls coming over, a bunch of folks coming over, and they wanted to talk to my mother and this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I immediately felt this. Like I said, I changed.
Did it feel negative or did it
It
feel
it did, and here's.
intruding
But it
energy?
was it was it was beyond that. It was
Mm.
it was beyond it. It was almost like it was there was a negative intent almost toward me.
And do you feel that energy was coming from the people?
I do.
Okay,
I
that were
do.
trying to
I
interfere
do.
with your
And it was I just remember feeling it was shields up.
yeah.
And when I say negative energy, it's not like somebody might have wanted to murder me
Right, right.
or
But
something like that.
discordant.
Right,
Just
right.
yeah.
And it was just like shields up. I changed. It was just like I'm not digging. I remember my mom like, "You so mean. Why are you so mean? Why you act like that?" And what
Because
it was,
you probably felt like their intentions just were not
as I get
good.
older, like I said, more experience. I look back at it, and it's. I think what it was is for me, it felt fraudulent. It felt fake. It felt
Mm.
disingenuous.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a life or death type situation. It's not like when I say these energies, it's some like you see in the movies, it's evil coming out of
Right.
you're trying to murder you and kill you. But it was just the fact that when I say it wasn't to my benefit, um, and it was harmful in a way because it was disruptive.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
And did you find out at some point, maybe a little later, that that was true? Your feelings were
I found out
accurate?
a lot of things later on about that. Yes, my feelings were accurate at the
Okay.
time.
And see,
Right.
that's what I mean. Trusting um, that gut feeling.
It was something so simple though, but I knew, you know.
That's just from a highly sensitive person.
Yeah,
That's one of
yeah,
the benefits of being highly sensitive.
yeah, yeah.
But
It's it can be a good thing, but it also has its drawbacks.
that's true.
You
Now,
know.
about religion. Um, I know you are well versed when it
Hmm.
comes to scripture.
No, I'm not gonna say
And I'm
that.
joking. I'm just
Oh
saying
no, I'm not gonna say that.
can you pull out a scripture
Hmm.
that can be interpreted in a metaphysical way? You can give us the scripture and look at it from a metaphysical
And see.
standpoint from your view.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not. Like you said, I'm not a walking.
I have one. Let me find it.
Mark. You know what?
There's one. And they made a movie about this. Matter of fact, I had a client that she gave me this movie.
Hmm.
It's called The Prayer Room
Okay.
or the War. No, it's called War Room. Um, very good movie.
Hmm.
But This is the scripture that reminds me of that movie. And it's Matthew chapter 6, verse 6. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father, which is in secret. And thy Father, which seeth in secret, shall reward thee openly.
Hmm.
Now, in this movie, this woman had a prayer closet, and she was having marital issues. So she literally made a prayer closet to go into and do all of her prayer. I mean, deep, intentional prayer. That, to me, that's literal. But on a spiritual level,
Mm-hmm.
a more metaphysical level, I think it means something totally different. I think it means meditating and praying within, going within your own mind, shutting off all the outside, and tuning in to God and connecting that way.
So if somebody asks you what tuning into God,
And
I think we let's go backwards for a split second. And different religions say God is someone or something different.
right, or your higher power, whatever it may be.
Right.
There are
So
many names,
you would say,
and it could be your higher self, whatever it is you believe.
okay, so here's one. You asked what a verse that would have a metaphor, but I think a good portion of the Bible is the majority of it.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, some things jump out more, and if you had a scale or a meter as far as metaphysical is concerned, because we know metaphysical means beyond the physical. Most of everything that they talk about, and it's just about is
Beyond,
right,
it's supernatural.
But like Mark 11:24.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. That's, I mean, if you think about it, that's just, it's just like what it says. It's believing that whatever you desire, whatever you ask for,
it's already
there. So you're manifesting it.
Right.
You're manifesting that in your life because of your belief and the strength of that belief.
And on another level, they say that it's already there. It just needs to show up in your reality.
Right. Who was that? Somebody was talking about multiple realities.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reality in which everything exists.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was talking about this, now he's going into quantum physics.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about being able to reach into that realm,
pulling it out
here, or as far as time too.
Yeah.
Like there's
no
a time, everything that happened to you in the past is still happening at that moment.
There's no such thing
as time or linear
it's
time.
It's an illusion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And in the future, everything that's to happen is happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's constantly going on.
I agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, you talking about verses or parts of the Bible where it starts talking about. There was a part, I think I want to say Mark 24, 24th chapter. Let's see if I can. And notice what we started doing here. We're actually talking about different parts in the Bible because that's the religion that we were exposed to growing up.
Right.
Yeah. So that says volumes in its own, right there.
Right.
Mark 24. There was what is it? Part of this. Right.
I have one while you're looking for that. Matthew chapter 6, verse 22 says, the light of the body is in the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, the body shall be filled with light. So to me, on a metaphysical, how I interpret that is when it says the light of the body is in the eye. I actually feel like it's saying that our consciousness is light, and that we have a light body, and also that if thy eye be single, you've heard people, mystics, talk about the third eye,
Mm-hmm.
opening the third eye. And when you open your third eye, you actually do become more light filled. And when I say light filled, I mean that you're illuminated.
Mm-hmm.
You have wisdom beyond anything here on earth. So that's how I interpret that on a metaphysical. I don't think you get that from church.
No,
From your local pastor.
You wouldn't get anything anywhere near that.
Yeah.
From church, I think it's just weird how. What's the best way to put it? It's kind of like take financial literacy. All right. You can't hold anything against your parents that they didn't tell you,
Right.
that they didn't know,
Right.
because they gave you what they knew.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing that, and at the time that they gave it to you, you know, what you do? You take you $20 every time you get paid, you stick it under that mattress, and you keep that $20 under that mattress, and you keep adding $20 to it. When you turn 50, 60 years old, how much money you gonna have under that mattress? You have a lot of money on that mattress, right? And which is true,
Mm-hmm.
but
So, unless the house burns down.
that or there's a lack of understanding about how inflation works.
Right.
And how the value of that money is going to be completely different in the future. So inflation is one thing. Interest. What are you paying interest on that you could have eliminated? All that $20 is sitting under the mattress.
Mm-hmm.
Use of the money. Usage. You took it out of circulation. The benefits of removing money from circulation versus circulating your money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, slowing it down versus speeding it up and moving it. But they didn't know any different. Or their grandparents didn't know any different. Their great-grandparents didn't know any different. I mean, and us as black folks probably came from more of a disadvantage in that area because a lot of us came from various situations economically
Right.
that feed into the condition that we're in today. Now we're just in a day and age where we have access to so much knowledge and information.
Many
Those excuses are gone, but we now that we can learn more, we need to learn more. So now it becomes a verse where now we have an access to knowledge and information that we did not have before.
Mm-hmm.
And religion, some religious or overly religious or religious zealots will tell you not to tap that information, that knowledge, because we're going to keep working off the same information that trickled through before.
Mm-hmm.
It may have been incomplete. It may have been only what somebody wanted you to know at that time, right?
Right.
And I'm not talking about God. I'm talking about mankind. I'm talking about people. And we're not going to tap in. We're not going to Google. We're not going to use
Don't use
internet.
your resources.
Right.
Just listen to me.
Let me tell you something. This encyclopedia. This book right here. This encyclopedia. Oh my
Britannica.
goodness. See, this book right here, this encyclopedia is everything you need to know about nature. Under N, you see this N right here? You go up there and you pull that book down. We got all these books, 26 of them, plus 2. We got all these books up here, and these books are going to give you the knowledge and the information that you need to work your way through life. Everything that you need is in these books. All of it. That was written in 1963.
1953.
Before we discovered this, before we discovered that. Now, if you need to know about the space shuttle, and you ain't gonna find it in this encyclopedia because it wasn't invented yet when they came up with this encyclopedia.
Oh my goodness.
So, when you say that, it made me think about that because that's how I see that. You know, when you tapping into what is there. It may not have been recorded, or you may not have what it was recorded on, but it does exist. That information does exist.
Absolutely does.
Yeah, it does exist.
Become illuminated.
Mm-hmm.
Allow yourself to be illuminated.
Illuminated.
Yes.
Illuminated. It's funny because even that's made it sound like a bad thing, though.
To be illuminated?
Yeah. Illuminated. What's Illuminati?
Oh goodness.
and then
Oh
the
my
illuminated
goodness.
ones, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Right. See how confusing that could be, though. There's somebody who didn't know any better. I remember when I first started hearing terms like illuminated and the light,
And I think about, the Masons, Freemasonry, everything is,
light.
it's just bad. Anytime you want more knowledge,
Hmm.
then you're accused of trying to be like God or a higher power, or you think you are God. So,
Yeah, that's just a little sidebar. Um, there was a guy who was doing a talk on religion. He was talking about the creation in the Bible, creation story.
hmm
And he talked about because there are two tellings of the creation story, and they're told a little bit different in Genesis,
hmm
1 and 2. And they're told a little bit different, and it almost he was making some points. And I was like, dang, it does sound like he's got a great point there.
hmm
Um, to me, it's like arguing about something that it's like two people. It's something that's confined in a box. So it's like two rats in a box arguing,
right.
and don't know that there's a world outside of this box. They just in this little box, and they're both arguing about what's right inside that
Their
little
own
box.
little perspectives.
Right, and so you given this little area to fight in, a ring, like a boxing ring. You given this little area, and they go back and forth arguing about who's going to win the fight in that ring. And there's 1,000 other boxing rings, 1,000 other matches going on at one time. You're just one little fight over here. You think you're solving the world's problems, but anyway, he talked about how, in his understanding of it, that in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth, but Elohim is a plural. It's not a singular. So basically, that would be translated to the gods, or the gods created the heavens and the earth. And when he talks about the creation of man, male and female, created he them. It's his interpretation was that man at that point in time, man was androgynous, was male and female in the same the same body. And then he talks about Jehovah was the one who separated the male from the female, and this is when all our problems started. I thought it was pretty interesting, but it was interesting that somebody could come up with a completely different story that you never heard before. It's like, dang, that's a new one. I never heard that one before, but completely
like,
different. Yeah,
you could have a point.
Yeah, but completely different.
Yeah.
And then you can see how it's almost like, okay, so let's take it up a notch. I'm more interested in what's higher. All this down here is so debatable, but I'm more interested into the higher thought. The basics. What's more basic? That draws me more.
Like what? I mean, because I feel like the higher you get, the less proof. I mean, there's no proof.
But there you go. It's everything.
It's all going to be debatable.
I feel it. That's the thing.
It's
but
subjective.
I feel like in a sense, religion can complicate things. And what I mean by that is take the organizational hierarchy and the structure of a church organization. Essentially, you have all these people being installed in between you and God.
Right.
And then at the same time, your role, that's what organizations do. They pigeonhole you. You get assigned a role within the organization. So now this is what you do. It's like being an ant colony.
You do your job, and you can slowly,
Right.
maybe you can move up.
Listen, God
to warrior ant.
But listen, but God, it's God's will. You see the way you work that broom? Everybody got a talent. Right? Your job ain't to preach. Everybody's job ain't to preach. Everybody's job ain't to sing in the choir. Everybody got to have a job to do. Your job happens to be pushing the broom.
And be
Okay.
happy.
Okay.
Be happy pushing that broom.
That's right. I need you in Bible study. I need you in Sunday school. I need you in every church service, and I need you to push that broom outside of those time frames. And that's your role. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's almost like a system designed to.
To keep you in a box,
That's right.
basically.
That's it. That's it. I think that's what it's all working towards,
Yeah.
is to keep you.
And only the chosen few are able to manage to get up, move up, to become anointed.
Anointed.
Oh, he's
See, this is
anointed.
some of the things I have problems with. It's just
He's
it's the
anointed.
wording, it's the terminology. Anointed. Now we got a rank structure, so
Only
he's
he
better
is
than me
anointed.
now,
He's
right?
the same age as you, but he's anointed.
Oh, he's old and young enough to be your son.
Yeah.
Or your child, but
Oh.
he's anointed.
Yeah, he's
You know.
special. That
Right.
means he's special. He has a stronger connection to God than you,
Right.
or your higher power. And yeah, I have a problem with labels and being
Yeah.
boxed in.
Yeah.
But that's why I think spirituality is such a personal journey. And that's why I think I found, even as a kid, being in church, knowing that I had my own connection and feeling that everything that the pastor was saying wasn't always true, I still understood and trusted how I felt on the inside. So I love being a spiritual person, and I don't necessarily have to be religious. I love going to church because it does feel good, and I do love to hear teachings, but I am highly spiritual, and that allows me to walk a free journey. I'm open to listen to different observations, different information, and I'm free to change my mind if I so choose, if I feel like certain things don't resonate with me. So,
That's why I paused there for a second there. I just wanted to check and make sure that was still rolling, so I could kind of throw in on your point when you say that spirituality is a personal journey, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. My thing is that that's kind of like what got me to where I'm at as far as spirituality, and in a practical sense. When you say it's a personal journey, what pops in my head is words like self-acceptance, self-responsibility, that type of thing. So it's an internal thing. It's on you,
absolutely.
And I like the word guide. You can have somebody that can guide you and kind of point you in the direction, but
Right.
it's up to you to
To
walk
apply, right? To apply what information you're given or advice. I do like the word guide too, but there was a point that I wanted to make. You just said something, but I've just flew out of my head that fast.
Lost track on it. But yeah, it really is a personal thing, and I think I tend to stray away from anything that deals with
Constriction.
right, and certain types of absolutes. Certain
Right or
types
wrong,
of right.
Because there's so much gray, so much gray area, so many things that we don't know that are we just don't know. There are a lot of things that we don't know.
I find myself often thinking in my mind when I hear somebody say certain things, like who gives you the right to speak for God, and to by what right do you have to even say that? For some reason you got a monopoly on God. All these people on this planet, in this plane, there's all these people, and you got a monopoly. You just right, and you know it all. You know everything. It's like, come on, man, really? The only reason that a lot of people like somebody's a Christian. The only reason they're a Christian is because they weren't born up in a Muslim country. They weren't born in a Muslim country, or they weren't born in a Buddhist country.
Right.
They weren't born in, And if you were born in these other places, you would believe just as staunchly, probably the exact same way you do in whatever religion you're in
Right.
now
Right.
about that religion,
I
and then
agree.
you would say these people are infidels, and these people are, and that's the thing. When you start talking about, we're talking about love and God, and then turn right around and start talking about who are dogs and infidels because they
Right.
don't believe the same way that you believe.
Right. Right. And I do believe that most religions, most of the major religions, do have a core belief that's similar.
Hmm.
I think, if you study most of them, they do strive for the same things. Um, but yeah, it's amazing how, if you're Christian and, anyone outside of that, if they don't believe in Jesus, then they're not, saved, or they're not good people.
Well, whoa, that's that right there.
That I had a client that came to me, and one of her requirements of anyone that she did business with, or if she went to her nail tech, they had to be able to talk about Jesus or even say the word Jesus. If they weren't able to say the word Jesus, then
There was a demon.
yeah, pretty much.
There was a demon, so you can't work here.
And I tell you, now that's when rebellion kicked up in me, because I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about Jesus. But when you threaten, and when you you make a statement like that, oh,
But see now in a more practical sense, I'm like, cool, all right, that's y'all's thing. I don't want to work in a nail restaurant anyway, your nail tech place anyway. So,
well, she was a customer.
oh, she was a customer.
She was my client.
Oh,
and
okay.
she each time she come in for laser, she wanted to talk about Jesus. And if you weren't able to conversate about Jesus, then she made the statement the last time I saw her that she doesn't do business with people that won't
Even as from a
speak.
client standpoint.
Yes, speak about Jesus. And I had to
That's fine.
I had to clearly tell her that I don't talk about religious matters. I don't talk about politics with my clients.
Well, what about this though? This is what she probably, Jesus said to him, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." I mean, how could you not be willing to talk about Jesus? I mean,
I love Jesus.
Huh?
Jesus, I work with Jesus closely. I
Right.
actually do.
right.
I really do.
Right.
But, for
It's-
someone to try to force me into a
There you go.
conversation,
Right. Right.
I don't play by anybody else's rules. And I think that's the point that I'm making
Yeah.
with my religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs. I don't play by anybody else's rules but mine and
She thinks
my
maybe
higher power.
she thinks it's her job to witness.
And I guess that's her way of weeding out people who may be demonic, or maybe that just don't align with her same spiritual or religious beliefs. I don't play that because I'm accepting of all people. It doesn't matter. I don't care what your religious background is. If you're a good person, you're a good person.
Right.
I don't care what you believe.
Yeah.
And
I'm
I see
curious.
beyond religion. I see the core of a person,
Right.
and their character.
Yeah. Then you got the other parts of it too, like who is Jesus? Where did that name come from? Jesus. Was that the person that they're referring to? Was that his name? Where does the name Jesus come from? They didn't have no J's in Hebrew back then, so it wasn't Jesus. It was something else. You know what I'm saying? So you have something that's been translated, flipped around, whatever, and then that becomes the power in the name of Jesus. The power would be in the name of this individual, this person. That's where the power would be, in that name, not in a name that didn't exist, right? That's one school of thought. I guess the other school of thought could be it's the intent behind it. The fact that you are worshiping the Son of God.
And
It doesn't matter if the name is correct or not.
and another way to think of it is no different. Like a cross,
Mm-hmm.
a symbol. That cross has power because of so many people have put their energy into believing that cross has power. So it does.
Mm-hmm.
It literally does.
So that can happen.
So then it can happen with anything.
Right.
So yes, the name
A
of
charm,
Jesus. Yes, the name of Jesus has power because of years and years, hundreds of thousands of people putting their belief and their intention and power, their own personal power into that name.
And it would have power if just your belief.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
that.
But
a
symbol or his name, it does because of so many people.
Right.
Yeah, it's multiplied.
Right. And when you look at it from a metaphysical standpoint, what I find interesting is that somebody else could come from a completely different, almost a scientific side of the house, and would say that, if you believe in something, somebody believed in something so great, that they thought, like a woman whose child was trapped under a car, and she believed that if she lifted under that car and she said Jesus at the time, that the power of Jesus would lift that car for a child. Yeah. Somebody else would say, no, it was her belief that enabled her to lift the car off the child. Then somebody else could say, it
was just adrenaline.
It was a physical reaction that took place in her body. It was that
adrenaline that put, her desire to save her child. Yeah, that adrenaline pulsing through her veins.
Right. So there's so many different ways you could approach that, I guess, and that's the foundation for so many different religions and belief systems. It's a different take.
And this is the great thing about these talks.
Uh-huh.
I hope that our viewing audience, our listening audience, is open to look at religion and spirituality in a more accepting way. For myself, I'm not coming from a point of bashing any side. I just say stay open. Stay open to being accepting of new information, new ideas, and don't lock yourself in to either or, if that's not what you feel led to do. But if religion helps you become a more spiritual person and in touch with God and communing with others, by all means, do that. But if you choose to walk the spiritual path, I feel like there's nothing wrong with that either, because you're free to I think you're free to ascend to heights that you've never been able to reach.
My take on that would be that in terms of religion, there's so many things that we can't prove, right? But that doesn't mean that it's wrong to believe a certain way or to ascribe to a certain belief system. I would just say that it's okay to say I don't know when it comes in terms of certain things. It's okay to say that you don't know a thing. He that knows something knows that he doesn't know anything at all. Really, there's so much that we don't know, and if we can admit that to ourselves, it would improve the way that we could deal with others. We can sit here and have a conversation. You can sit there and have a conversation with other people without it becoming something that's disrespectful, or in some cases even violent, all because we believe something different. That's a big problem with a lot of the things that are going on in the world today, is that people have hostility towards each other because they tend to have a different belief system. I think we should kind of lean on some of the things that we do know for a fact, like how you treat people, the things that you can control, how you act towards somebody, how you allow them to treat you, the things that you take responsibility for. And I don't think that a religion gives anybody a way out. I think that oftentimes religion is used as a way to place responsibility for things on somebody else. Something happened to them, either the devil did it or God did it, but they didn't do anything. And that's the problem that I have with that. It's ultimately it's you, and you're responsible for what happens to your life within your life. So in terms of dealing with higher power and higher energy, I just think that we need to become And this is my personal opinion. I believe that we need to become less religious and more spiritual. That's just how I feel about it.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So I want to remind our listening audience to make sure when you listen to us, subscribe so you can get all the latest podcasts, the latest uploads on video as well on YouTube, and rate us. Hopefully, you'll give us 5 stars. It's no charge, so
Awesome. So, religion. I mean, there's so much more that we could touch on.
there
Um,
it is.
but those were some of the things that really stood out for me. I'm looking forward to the next conversation.
Me too. And if you guys have any suggestions as far as topics, feel free. Please leave us a comment. Email address.
Openconversations@gmail.com.
You can email us, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
If you're watching this on YouTube, just leave something in the comment section down below. If there's any topic that you'd love to see a conversation on, or that you would love to offer your input on, put that in the comment section below, and then we'll talk about that at some point. Eventually, we'll be doing some things live and offering other people the opportunity to give us their input so that we can open up the discussion and make it a wide open type of thing.
Absolutely.
All right, so thanks for coming out, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Take care.
See you later.